Okay, what is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba for Miami, Melba for Justice, also known as the resident legal diva. And it is time for another Mondays with Melba. So we're in the midst and the depths of legislative session this year. And I wanted to kind of bring some awareness to some of the bills that are coming out. And there's been a lot of discussion around permitless carry and what impacts that's going to have moving forward, because we are a state that, right now you need a concealed weapons permit in order to be able to carry a firearm. Permitless carry will remove that requirement. So I wanted to kind of explore different aspects of gun ownership. I'm a new gun owner, so definitely wanting to bring in experts. And so, of course, we've got Tony from Black Girls Shoot, who I had the amazing pleasure of meeting just as I started this firearms journey and trying to find more Black women who were into firearms and could kind of form that community to help guide me, right? So Tony is like an amazing wealth of information. And so I'm so excited to bring her on today just to chat about firearms, chat about, Black folks in firearms, and kind of dissect this whole permitless carry. Is it the end of the world? Is it not? What can we expect? So Tony, thank you so much and welcome to Mondays with Melba.
Thank you, Melba. Thank you so much for having me. I am looking forward to our talk for today, and I do appreciate you having me on the show so we can definitely discuss some things, and hopefully this will be a learning tool for everyone who may have had these kind of questions, especially with the new laws coming into place possibly soon.
Very soon, like weeks, I think it's going to be weeks.
Right.
So first off, Tony, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're based, what you do, and like the genesis of Black Girls Shoot. Where did it all begin?
So, Black Girls Shoot, we are here to educate, empower, and encourage women to take an active role in the 2A community and learning about how to be a safe and responsible gun owner. I started Black Girls Shoot back in 2020. It was just a hobby for myself and my children. We would go to the range. And being that, my previous career in law enforcement, I didn't see a lot of Black women out at the range shooting. So I kind of wanted to change that narrative, started taking my children out to the range with me. And then, it's like, you know what? I'd like to see more of us out there. And so I started Black Girls Shoot. I got myself trained. I got myself educated, through the job, through my career, and then on my personal goals, to become an instructor and to just become a trained instructor, not just to have the certification, but to be able to have the knowledge and the skills to be able to safely train someone else. And as we get into the discussion, especially about permitless carry and the bill that has passed, they want to you won't be, the education requirement will no longer be an issue. But as we get to talking about that, I really think that it's important that we do have that education component. We're here to educate, empower, and encourage. We have a platform. It's virtual and it's also in person. The club is based out of Florida. I do have satellite clubs and members in 12 different states. I have 55 women thus far, and we are growing. So we do offer seminars online, in-person classes as well, not just about gun ownership, but also about emergency preparedness, just really teaching women to be ready to defend themselves and to be their own first responder, and how to do that safely. For this year, 2023, it's all about being intentional about safety. That is the goal for this year.
Awesome, awesome. And can you share a little bit, because you kind of touched on it a little bit when you were giving your introduction, but, sort of what was your pathway to gun ownership? You mentioned going out with your kids and your family, and also it was part of your job as law enforcement, but when did it become more of like a lifestyle per se, rather than I have to carry a gun for my job?
Well, it became a lifestyle at that moment. This was back in 2007, because I had young children and now I was introducing firearms into the home due to my career. I had to make sure that myself and my family, as well as my spouse at the time, knew that, hey, I am bringing firearms into the home. So I couldn't just do that and not educate my family as well. That just would not have been the safe thing to do. So at that moment, because I was now living every day with a gun, with several in my home, I had to get myself educated and educate my family as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like pivoting a little bit into like the Black women's experience, right? Or the Black people's experience, knowing that we're not all a monolith, everybody has different paths, but it seems that historically in certain sectors of the Black community, there's been, I wouldn't say a fear, but just a reluctance to get involved with firearms. What are some of the reasons that you may have noticed or heard as to why, Black folks kind of think, I don't think that gun ownership is really for me. And again, knowing that culturally, you'll have folks like maybe they grew up in a hunting culture or more of a ranching culture in the South. So obviously, firearms are a necessary part to be able to do that work. But I sense that when you get to like Chicago, New York, and certain urban centers, folks don't really, that look like us, don't really, at least historically, were somewhat reluctant to own guns. So any thoughts on that?
Right, and you said it. Historically, it's, this is something that we did not have access to. We didn't have a right to. These were things that we had to fight to earn to get in the past. So with that being said, just the history. When you associate, I didn't grow up with guns in the home either. I didn't grow up in a shooting environment. I grew up in a semi-urban area in New Jersey. So the gun laws in the northern states, New Jersey, New York, and Illinois, are very, very strict. You can, if you are using it for hunting, but we're not a community that has done that historically. And, I know that's something that I would like to learn, and that's something that I like to bring to and become a part of, but that's just nothing that I was raised around. And I think that it's that fear of the unknown, because for so many years, we were not allowed to have them. They had like Jim Crow and black codes and everything back prior to, after Reconstruction and everything. So we just didn't, it wasn't accessible to us. And the lack of knowledge, the lack of education, the lack of awareness of what our rights are, kept us away from that, from owning guns. But we can, it is a right that we do have, as long as you're being, especially if you're being responsible and being a responsible gun owner, that is definitely important. And just to get yourself educated, it's okay that you didn't grow up, or you may be in your 40s and never fired a gun. That's fine. Get out there and learn if you want to, because there are many instructors, not just myself. There's many great instructors, especially in the state of Florida, that are more than willing to safely guide you in the right direction.
For sure. And of course, I'm always going to shout out Tooka Hart Rodriguez, who is my firearms instructor here in Miami. So
That's
hit her
right.
up. She's based in Homestead. But of course, I am looking forward to going shooting with you, Tony, sometime in the near future.
Yeah,
But
we have some powerful women in Florida doing some great things in the 2A community. Not just women in Central Florida corridor. You have Black Lions, Cover Your Six, Shoot Your Shot. I mean, it's so many that are coming up, and they're here to support and to be, ask your questions, come out to range days and get the experience that you need, so you can be and feel comfortable. Like, you want it to be just as comfortable as driving a vehicle. A vehicle is a deadly weapon as well. You go get your permit, you study for your test, you take your driving test. Why would you not take carrying a firearm just as serious as you do driving your car, which is also a deadly weapon?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So then, we got to address the elephant in the room, because it's got a pink tutu on and it's dancing around. So we know that there was a horrible mass shooting recently in Denver where three young children, like 9-year-olds, and three teachers lost their lives, as a result of lone wolf shooter, AR-15, the whole thing. Of course, we know that there are mass shootings in America every day that just don't hit the news, right? Because a mass shooting can be defined as like 3 or more fatalities. So, you think of, unfortunately, some violence in some of our urban communities and things like that. We kind of hear about that every day. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do we balance Second Amendment rights with safety of communities? Like, what, because I know there's always that knee-jerk reaction, I think, in the wake of a mass shooting, and rightfully so, because this should not be the norm, right? That every day kids are dying.
Right.
That's not okay. No, and I don't think
No, it's
anybody out
not.
here is saying it's okay. But I think there's well, the only way to address this is to ban all guns. And then the reflex is, you're not taking my 2A rights away from me. And then impasse and the discussion ends. So, I'm just always curious to hear people's thoughts. How do we balance the two to make sure that communities are safe and people who shouldn't have guns don't have access? But at the same token, we're making sure that responsible gun owners are able to, protect their homes, protect their families, shoot for sport, but not, obviously do so in a responsible way. How do we balance the two?
Right. First, is my condolences to all of the victims and their families for the Nashville shooting that occurred. It was unnecessary, and it should never have to happen. Children should never, or anyone should have to lose their life at the hands of someone who just wants to go out and do bad things. Unfortunately, if people want to do bad things, they're going to do them, regardless of what laws are in place. And to say the solution is, oh, well, to take away guns, is that really the solution? Would you take away all of the cars because they're, causing accidents? Would you take away, it's that person. If somebody wants to do a bad deed, they're going to do a bad deed. Criminals are not following the law. So you can put all the laws you want in place. If somebody wants to do a bad thing, they're going to do it. If a criminal wants to do a bad thing, they're going to do that. Putting the laws in place, people break laws every day. It's the citizens that want to do the right thing. They want to make sure that they're registered. They want to make sure they're taking their safety courses. They're applying for their concealed carry permits. They're getting their certifications. The ones that are following the laws, that's who's going to be restricted by these laws, because Mr. and Mrs. Honest Citizen is going to follow the law. A criminal is not going to do that. I'm not sure where the balance is going to come in at, but I don't agree that taking away guns is the solution. But at the same time, I also don't agree that, with permitless carry, that not having an education requirement is part of that bill. I think that people do need to be educated on how to properly use a firearm. They do need to be educated on state laws, county laws, traveling across state lines, as you and I were talking about earlier. I don't feel that will make the situation any better. They say that, oh, well, this will stop gun violence. There'll be more gun violence if this happens. Well, I think there'll be more accidental things happening, not necessarily a violent act occurring, but something that's accidental. You could be cleaning your gun and not know that you have a round in the chamber, and then it goes off and you inadvertently hurt someone or, cause someone their life in another home, apartment next door or something like that. But I mean, people can argue on both sides why this should be taken away from another. I have relatives that live in other countries, and they're like, well, what is going on in America? Why do you guys always have something going on with guns, and they need to take guns away and everything? And it's like, but nobody talks about like lives that are saved because there was a responsible gun owner in the room. That how many lives were saved? Yes, there were some lives that were lost, but how many lives were saved because there was a responsible gun owner that took charge, downed that suspect or something like that? There's plenty of stories like that, but you never get to hear about them.
I think there was one, I think it was a young African American gentleman. Oh gosh, it was a couple of years ago. It was like a mall shooting, and I think he was able to shoot the suspect because he was carrying his weapon.
Yeah.
But then there was something about him and law enforcement. I think law enforcement didn't realize that he was a friendly, and I don't remember all the details, but I feel like that was a high profile thing where they were like, I think his good acts were marred by other circumstances in the situation.
Right. And that happens, even like in churches, who would think that something like this would happen in a church, but it has, and it does. And, you've had folks that are in church for service take down a shooter that was, could have taken way more lives than they did. It's just, if somebody wants to do a bad thing and a bad deed, they're gonna find a way to do it.
So let's get into the whole distinction between concealed carry, permitless carry, and open carry. So let me just give you the state of play in Florida, because again, I mean, I I stay looking at these issues, right? I mean, that's just my life. But So, for folks who don't know, there is a bill currently moving through the Florida legislature that would allow people to carry without needing a permit. So currently, right now, the law is that if you want to carry a weapon outside of your home, there are a couple different things. Number one, if you are just carrying it in your glove box or in your trunk and it's secured, you can take it from point A to point B without needing a concealed weapons permit. But if you want to like roll around town, you want to go to a restaurant, you can't go to the bar, but if you want to go to a restaurant or certain places that are not prohibited by law, so you can't bring a gun to a courthouse. If it's posted at the front of the business, you can't carry a gun inside if they don't want you to carry it. But if you want to be able to carry it, around town or whatever, you have to apply for a concealed weapons permit, which requires you to take a course basically going over safety, going over the laws in the state of Florida, and then you have to qualify on the range. And then there's the aspect of open carry, which is basically, you can carry a gun openly on your hip, wherever, however, whatever. So
and Florida is not an open carry state.
Florida is not an open carry state, but there was a push to introduce that legislation this session. The governor was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of down with that. But I think there was a lot of pushback, which is why permitless carry became sort of the middle ground, so to speak. So if this permitless carry passes, that means that anyone who has a firearm can carry it concealed. Again, with the exception of you can't go into the courthouse, you can't go into certain places with a firearm. So based on what you're seeing around the country and based on your work and all of that, is permitless carry that bad? Is it that dangerous? If so, why or why not? Can you share a little bit about that and your thoughts on each of the three: concealed carry, permitless carry, and open carry?
Okay, well, when it comes to permitless carry, the requirement where you do not have to have the education component, that does cause me to have a bit of a concern, because I'm saying this because I train a lot of people, a lot of men, a lot of women. I've trained new gun owners, and I've trained gun owners that have been through a concealed carry class. Oh yeah, I took the class years ago, I'm fine, I know how to use it. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's we'll go over, do a review, and then get out on the range, and it's like they still don't know how to safely use a firearm. And that's the thing: safety. If you can have one, you can even take the class, but if you're still not practicing and not sharpening up those skills at the range regularly, do you really know how to use it? You may know where it is, you may know how to put your hand on it, and you may know how to pull the trigger, but are you still safely using it? I always go back to using a car as an example. It's like, yeah, a child can start a car, turn it on, put it in drive, and hit the gas, but do they know how to drive?
Right.
So I think the education component for permitless carry is something that I would like to still see in place, just because for safety. I think you'd have a lot of accidental discharges, a lot of accidental shootings, not necessarily an increase in gun violence maybe, but just a lot of accidents. Just because accidents happen on the range with people who are trained. There are instances where accidents do happen, unfortunately, but just imagine the occurrence, how high that would go if you have folks that, okay, well, I got a gun and I'm just going to carry it, but I don't know how to use it. I don't feel that that's safe. There are other aspects of the bill. I think they were talking about bringing the age down from 21 to 18. Yeah. Also, what else did I read on there? Not the no gun laws, where if you see a sign posted for no gun, you can't enter, things like that. They were going to be changing that. Open carry. I also live in Tennessee. I'm in both states, and they do have open carry in Tennessee. So it is kind of like, oh, okay, you see that, but you still have to be responsible. You still need to make sure that you're aware that now that you have this firearm on your side that other people can see, It does bring more attention to you, and it could bring negative attention. You could be more of a target. It leaves the opportunity for people to come up and grab your firearm from you if you're not, especially if you don't have the proper holster. Retention. It's your responsibility that you have to retain that firearm on your body. So if you're not aware of how to do that, how to carry so you're safely being able to retain and protect that sidearm, you can find yourself in a dangerous situation and looking down the barrel of your own gun, and unfortunately, because you're just because it says open carry and because you're walking around with the gun exposed doesn't necessarily mean that you're the safest person in the room. You could actually draw more attention and be a victim if you're not carrying safely. So concealed carry, yes, with, as you mentioned, you can't go to certain locations and everything. I do like the aspect of the education requirement that the current law has. And just from working in a law enforcement background and field, it is easy to just say if you did have to find someone, that information is available on those applications. That's something that people, law enforcement can go back and look at, like, hey, where's this person's last known address? Are they, did they declare any mental health concerns or anything like that? Those are things that you can go back and use for research and for your cases. So I can't, again, I'm all about education. So taking away the education component of permitless carry, I don't agree with.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the education component was important, but it also depended on who your instructor was, because I still felt like, there, and I'm not trying to besmirch anyone. I have not personally experienced this, but I'm just thinking in anything, you've got the good, the bad, and the indifferent, right? You got the really great instructors who are going to sit down and make sure you know everything. And, maybe they won't test you, but they'll be very sure that you're getting the most accurate, up-to-date information. And there's other
That's
people that
true.
might be indifferent. They might just be like, yeah, you showed up, signing off, boom. And it's not even like you're really getting a solid.
That's true. That's true. And again, I am biased because I'm thinking about the instruction that I give. I'm thinking about the instruction that I've gotten throughout my career to get here, and it's all been thorough. But I have heard of like the mills that just run you on through and, oh, well, I took the class, but I never even shot it. I didn't even get to shoot. Like, what?
That you didn't take the
You
class.
know, yeah, you didn't take the class, or you didn't take one by a reputable instructor. So yes, it is important to make sure that you're getting trained and getting that education through someone that is experienced and is knowledgeable.
Yeah. I mean, and the other aspect for me that worries me about permitless is that, you know, there's so many different ways you can get a gun legally, right? So you can go to the gun shop where you get the federal background check and the whole thing, but you can also go to the gun show, which may not necessarily have as stringent a background check as you
They
would.
do,
They
they
do say,
do. Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
gun,
So
so they
that
close
that
the loophole. Finally.
that will still occur even with the permitless carry. The background checks and everything will still occur.
Okay.
So at least that will still be in place, and they do background checks at the gun shows
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, because I remember for a while that was a big thing, that straw purchasers, so basically somebody else with good fingerprints, right, who doesn't have a criminal history, will buy guns at the gun show and then hand it off to somebody else, and now you have.
That does happen. But that's again criminal versus Mr. and Mrs. Good Citizen. It's like if they're going to get their hands on it, they're going to get their hands on it one way or another.
Right, right. So it just, my thought process was more, and again, I have not fully formed an opinion. I'm still kind of listening to different arguments and just trying to, think it all through. But, my concern with permitless is that, folks are like, oh, well, I got a gun, right? Like I bought it legally, all good, whatever. I'm gonna just roll out with it. And again, not only not
Right.
taking they haven't been to, even though they took the class, let's say they decided I'm going to take the concealed carry class, but they haven't been to the range and haven't shot their weapon in 3 years. And now they're going to roll out in the street the next day. And now, okay, I have a confrontation. Somebody cuts me off in traffic. Boom. Now I have my gun on me because I don't have to go the extra step to get the
Right.
permit or whatever the case may be. Right. So that's kind of where I struggle, but I don't know. It's
Yeah. And it's taking the class, and just for the example that you gave, if someone were to do that, took the class years ago, at least they know that they did take it, and there is a community that is there that if they need help, they can go back to. You know, there are folks that are out here that don't know that our community exists, that there are instructors out there that look like them and are out here at the range and doing great things. You know, they may not know that. So if they go to a class, they can get exposed to that. They can get exposed to other people in the class, and just hearing the conversation is talking about, oh, well, what range do you go to? Well, I go to this range. Oh yeah, you come. You know, it's like, it's even that passive information back and forth is important. Um, just you know, you never know who you're going to run into and where they've been and what they've done. You know, even going into the gun store, there's sometimes instructors that are already in there just walking around, hey, how you doing, you know, and just want to introduce themselves and offer assistance, you know. But this is a community that is growing, and I just really feel, just like you, I just feel that taking away that education and component, I just don't like that part of it.
Yeah,
I
it
just
just
don't
yeah,
like that part of it.
it just because I mean, you had to take, for instance, to drive, you had to take a
Yeah,
class, right? Like you had to pass a test,
right.
and to carry something that is just as deadly as a car, if not more so, because it's smaller and portable. It,
Hmm.
it just doesn't sit right. But again, we'll see what happens. I mean, session will be over in a couple of weeks. This is definitely a high priority on the governor's list. So I feel like this is going to come. This is going to happen. So
Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna have to
and
govern ourselves accordingly.
and I began taking my kids to the range. They were 12, yeah, 12, 14, and 20. And, you know, my 12-year-old, you know, 12 and 14, very young. But it was important that our kids know, because you may not have a gun in the home, but they may visit a home that has a gun in it. You
Mhm.
know, and I needed my children to know that, hey, this is something that is not a toy. And I just felt like we need to start educating our kids. So let's get ourselves educated, and let's get ourselves educated so we can teach our children how to be educated, and talk to our kids about these things. Unfortunately, we're in a day and age where we have to talk to our kids and teach them at home. What do you do if there's an active shooter coming to your classroom? You know, you have to start asking these questions. Do they know? You know, because maybe the classroom doesn't know, but if your child knows, hey, let's do, this is what my mom told me to do. This is what we need to do. Like, you know, if you see a gun maybe thrown on the side of the road or in a park or somewhere, what do? You don't go pick it up, you know, but out of curiosity, because kids are not exposed to it in our community as they are in others. You know, it's that curiosity. You
Mhm.
know, I see others at the range from 6, 7, and 8 years old. They can barely hold up a rifle, but they're out there learning how to shoot at a very young age. And they're not just learning how to shoot, they're learning how to be responsible with a gun if you have one in your hands. You know, it's nothing that you're going to have in your hands with your when you're not around an adult. But any event that you do come across a firearm as a child, or you know, throughout your childhood and everything, you'll know what to do and what not to do. So I again, the education component, even from an early on for our kids, we need to do that. We need to start talking about it. We need to start having these uncomfortable conversations and making them comfortable in our home. And how do we do that if we're not the ones that are educated?
Right.
If we're not
Exactly.
educating ourselves, how can we expect our kids to know right from wrong when we haven't even taught that for ourselves
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
adults?
No, that's absolutely huge. That's absolutely huge. And I will say this, I'm going to, before we kind of wrap up and start talking about how folks can find you, I will say number one, folks keep forgetting the fact that Harriet Tubman carried a gun. And so when she was, bringing enslaved people to freedom, she didn't expect to get greeted with hugs and kisses, right? She knew that she was going
Hmm.
to have to throw down in order to be able to get people to safety. And she had no qualms about using it. So it is in our DNA. It is something that, that is in our history. I mean, there was an old quote too that every black family, the Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black family's home.
Ida B. Wells.
Exactly,
That's
because of
right.
the fact that we were able to defend ourselves against the Klan, against, just horrible, hateful, racist people, we were able to defend ourselves. So,
And
and
feed our families. We were able to hunt. We had to feed our families. How could we be able to feed our families if we couldn't even own a firearm?
exactly,
We didn't
exactly.
have grocery stores that you could just go to and buy everything, and we had to live off the land. And
Yours was running the
if I can't
Costco.
even own them, yeah, that's right. That's right. It was more about a lot of it was for defense, but it was just more about putting food on the table
Mhm.
to survive. Clothes on your back, so.
Yeah, I mean that's all part of it. But then I'm kind of pleased and just fascinated by now this resurgence, because now Black women are the fastest growing group of gun owners in the United States. And that spike started in 2017. What happened around 2016, 2017? We had the election of the last president, who unfortunately his rhetoric was very divisive and had people scared. Like, listen, if these
Hmm.
folks are out here talking about war and we're going to take back our country and all of this, listen, you ain't
And make
taking
America
your,
great again. Yeah. Right.
so that kind of brought me on my journey, because unfortunately when I ran, I'd been exposed to firearms before as my work as a prosecutor, through my work as a prosecutor. But unfortunately when I ran, my life was threatened. So that really just kind of, when your sense of safety is kind of like shook like that, I didn't want to have to go to that place, but I was like, you know what, if something happens, I'm going to be ready. And and it's unfortunate, but the good part is the communities that I've been able to find, and building with other women who enjoy shooting and are like, it's almost like a whisper community. It's like, girl, you want to go to the range? Yeah, girl, okay,
Right.
meet you,
Right.
And so, but the cool thing is we're kind of coming together and trying to go on a monthly basis and encourage each other and continue to learn. And and the ranges are, while still very male dominated, the ones that I know I've been to, and much more conservative. I mean, you will see some signs you may not be thrilled with.
Hmm.
But again, you can find certain ranges that seem to be more neutral. And it's just like, hey, come through if you want to shoot, shoot. We're not getting into politics. Those are the ranges that
Right.
I've been kind of focused on finding and stuff and sharing with folks. But anyway, all that aside, Tony, how can folks find you if they want to connect with you? Because I know you do some amazing classes online, including how to clean your gun, basic safety, things like
Yep.
that. How can people find you?
Well, my website is www.blackgirlshoot.org. You can find all of our classes, membership information, as well. As I said, we have virtual and in person. And I'm also on Instagram at official Black Girl Shoot. We also have Facebook pages under the same name, Official Black Girl Shoot and Black Girl Shoot Gun Club. So if you just Google Black Girl Shoot, you'll pretty much be able to find us. Yeah, so we try not to be a secret society. We do want to be open to everyone. And we're not just here, even though the name may give the appearance that we're just here for Black women, we are here for everyone. We just simply, like I said, recognize, like you said, Black women are the fastest demographic. And I just wanted to create a safe space and a space to welcome, to say, hey, this is here and we are here for you. Again, there are other clubs. We have a lot of great clubs out there in Florida, in South Florida, Central Florida, Black Lions Gun Club, Cover Your Six, Shoot Your Shot, Black Girl Shoot. You got Warrior Women's down in South Florida. I mean, Florida's doing some really great things, in the 2A community. And up in New York, I have some great brothers and sisters up in New York, Diasporans Firearms Club as well. They are doing some great things in New York, especially for the movement of laws, trying to change that tone in the state of New York. So, which is, I'm not sure if you know, it's very hard to get a permit up there. Like, we are very, very fortunate to be in Florida, where they are very 2A. Like, we're actually having a discussion about, permitless carry over concealed carry, and in New York, they can hardly get
There's no
to
carry.
carry at
You ain't
all. There's
carry.
no carry, So we
Yeah.
kind of sound like we're a little spoiled down here, but we are, and we're okay with that, So, but yeah, Black Girl Shoot. I appreciate you having me on today. I hope that I was able to answer all the questions, and the whole we just have to see how this thing goes, with this whole permitless carry. I'm curious to see what the end result is.
For sure. And for
Yeah.
everybody who is, watching, the links that she referred to, that Tony referred to, are going to be in the comments, so you can easily click on the website and be able to, take advantage and take a look at what's going on. If you're listening on the podcast, it's going to be in the body of the description. So again, you'll be able to click that link in the body of the description to be able to get to the website and see what's what. So Tony, you have been amazing. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for all the education that you're providing. And thank you for spending some time with me on Mondays with Melba.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, y'all. Take good care. We'll be back with another show next week. Bye, y'all.